G'day and welcome back to RC Model Reviews for a little bit of a review here. Now, back in the olden days, remember the olden days with these things with long wire radios? Look at this. I mean, that's just nothing compared to what they go to. Back in the days of long wire radios, there was a really good thing, and that was that you could get a whole bunch of different receivers and they'd all work with the one transmitter. So this is, for example, a Hitec radio, Hitec transmitter. But I could get a receiver from FMA, a receiver from Berg, one from Corona, one from Poke Hobbies, the Seeker 6. All these receivers, although they were made by different companies, would work with this radio or a Futaba or other radios that were the same shift. Something, don't worry too much about that, but if you don't know what shift is, it's not important, except to say there was really only two standards. It was left shift and, positive shift and negative shift. And as long as you got a radio or a receiver that worked with the right shift that your radio has, you were good to go. So that meant prices for receivers were very competitive, you know, because you could go out there, I think which was the cheapest of these? The Berg was probably the cheapest. At the time, they were quite a bit cheaper than Futaba. Then Corona came along and they were even cheaper still. So yeah, it made a very competitive marketplace. We got a big choice of receivers, all different sizes, shapes and whatever. Now, of course, we're in the 21st century and now we have, each manufacturer has their own specific type of frequency hopping spread spectrum. We've got the Futaba Fast or the S-FHSS, and we've got the Hitec, which has got, what's that got? AFHSS. We've got FrSky with their, I don't know, so many acronyms, but basically you cannot take a Futaba receiver and use it with a Hitec radio. You can't take a Hitec receiver and use it with a JR radio. There's just, the compatibility is minimal. Now, some companies like Corona and FrSky make Futaba fast compatible receivers, but they only work with Futaba. So although they're made by a different company, they're still a one radio receiver. So what I'm going to look at today is a receiver that gets back to the old days. It's a receiver that lets you use it with quite a number of different branded transmitters, and that's pretty unusual. Right, let's skip forward to the 21st century, and here's a Futaba T6K Futaba radio. It supports TFHSS and SFHSS, these acronyms. And of course you can use this receiver. This is a Futaba receiver, matching receiver, 6-channel receiver. So if you're going to buy your Futaba radio, you get one of those. That's great, that's brilliant, that's fine. Of course, if you have something like a Hitec radio, here's the Flash 7, then you'll use a Flash or Hitec receiver. Here's the Optima Hitec receiver. Those two work together just fine and dandy. And let's say, like me, you've got a Turner G9X that you've modded with the FrSky system, and I'll put the telemetry in here as well, so it's a FrSky telemetry system. Then you can use a FrSky receiver. Great, but the problem is, if you've got FrSky, then you can't use the Futaba receiver, and nor can you use the Hitec receiver. They're not going to work with this radio. Likewise, if you have a Hitec radio, you can't use that. And you can't use that. And just to show you how ludicrous the situation is, if you've got one of these Futaba radios, you can't use the Hitec receiver or the FrSky receiver. So what do? Now, what if you've got one of these and one of these? Because I mean, a lot of people now get multiple radios. What do you got? That, and that. Wouldn't it be nice if you had a receiver that could work with all of those radios? Well, hey, guess what? Just like in the olden days, there is. It's this one. It's the FrSky Delta 8. Whoops, see, he wants to fly. Let's take a look at this receiver and see why it's clever enough to work with this and that when nothing else does. So here's the receiver, and as you can see, it works with the FrSky ACCST, with the Futaba S-FHSS, and with the Hitec AFHSS. Works with all three of those. Isn't that clever? How do they squeeze it into one simple little receiver? Well, it's down to the chips that are used. Now, because there's a limited choice of chips for 2.4 gigahertz, it's only natural that a number of different manufacturers are going to choose the same chipsets. And if you've got the same chipset, then the only thing that stops you from using a genuine Hitec, a genuine Hitec receiver or a genuine Futaba receiver with anything else, or even one of these, with anything else, is the software. It's just down to the software. So what's happened here is someone very clever has come along and said, hey, we can just reprogram one of the one of the FrSky receivers to work with these other protocols. And they've done it. They've done it with this little Delta 8 receiver. So it means that you've got access. If you run a Futaba system, generally, Futaba receivers, they're a little bit spendy because you're paying for the name. You're paying for the name. Same goes if you run a Hitec. Their receivers are a lot more affordably priced, but they're still spendy because it's a brand, and brands cost money to promote and maintain. Now the FrSky system, of course, it basically lives on its performance and its value. So they don't spend a lot of money on promoting the brand, they just spend a lot of money on making good quality stuff at a reasonable price. So now that we've got this FrSky receiver reprogrammed to handle these other protocols, then you can save yourself a bundle of money if you got a Futaba or a Hitec system by buying one of these instead of one of the branded receivers that you might otherwise buy. Let's take a look inside and see how well this thing's made. So here we are inside the little receiver. You notice we've got this big chip here, a CC2510 Texas Instruments chip. This is the one that has all the goodness in it, does a lot of the work. Over here we've got our antennas now nicely glued down here. They've put the little micro UFL connectors, but they've been nicely glued down. There's our bind switch, a couple of LEDs to tell us about status. There's a crystal oscillator to keep things ticking over at a good tune. A couple of other support chips here. I'm looking for the logic chip here, the microcontroller, to be honest. And I'm thinking, I'll have to look at the data sheet, but I'm thinking maybe that this TI chip is a microcontroller and a 2.4. I have worked with the other chips, haven't worked with this series. So yeah, I think they've integrated the microcontroller and the 2.4 goodness into one chip, which means, oh my goodness, what an elegant little solution. The less parts there are, the less parts there are to fail. So what a wonderful job. That looks really nice. On the back side of the board, not much. It is a double-sided load, so we've got some extra components. They're basically just down to power. We've got some big capacitors here to do some filtering, some smoothing. Looks like a regulator or two. There's a regulator and a couple of other passives. There's the in-circuit programming thing, which means you can change the software in the chip. That's wonderful. And this is the VR8N2. That's the designation for that board. So yeah, I'm really happy with that little board. That is a brilliant little piece of kit, and it should perform reasonably well. Now, to be honest, it may not perform as well as the other branded receivers because they'll be optimized for their own protocols, and sometimes they put more stuff in. Let's have a look at one of these other receivers, see if there's extra bits in there that aren't in this one. Okay, here's the Hitec Optima receiver. Now this is got telemetry, so it's going to have a bit more stuff inside it. And I see, again, we're running a couple of TI chips there. What have we got? Yeah, there's this C2500. Now this one doesn't have, this one here, this doesn't have, I'll turn it around because so you can read the number on the chip. It doesn't have all that microcontroller goodness in it. It's only the RF side of things. So this little chip here, this does all the 2.4 gigahertz RF stuff. And as you can see, we've got the stuff comes in here. And I dare say that, not sure what this one does. This is another TI chip in the chipset. But we've got two boards in this one, which is really interesting. This is the RF board, and on the other side we've got our logic board. So over here we've got probably an Atmel processor. I don't know. I haven't looked at these before. Let's have a look. Got to be able to read the writing. Yes, it's an Atmel processor. You can see just there, that's the little processor that does all the decoding of the signals that come out of the RF chip. Now, and of course, you notice on the Delta 8, that's all integrated into one chip. So this is a less elegant solution, but it's got a bit more grunt because it has to handle telemetry. It has a back channel for telemetry. And there's another chip here which has got something on it because they don't want you to know what it is. It's a yellow chip. Those yellow chips are always very good. And we've got some other bits in here. It's got a switch, looks like it's got a choke in here. That might be a switch mode. Yes, it's probably got a switch mode power supply because remember the Hitec receivers will run on a very high voltage because it lets you use the voltage input as the telemetry. Very nice feature for the Optima receivers. Gives you telemetry without the need for an external sensor. And it's probably my biggest gripe about this receiver from Futaba. It is a telemetry enabled receiver, and it has the ability to send back the battery voltage that you're putting onto the pins here, but it has no external voltage connection. You can't actually hook up an external voltage sensor to sense your LiPo voltage. So, what a miss that is, because from telemetry point of view, you want to be able to check your LiPo. Of course, having said that, we must remember that the Delta 8 receiver does not have any telemetry. It's just a plain old receiver, non-telemetry. So if you're buying this, you will not get any telemetry information back. But if you're looking to save money, about 20 bucks or something. Oh, I don't know what the Optima is. It's more than 20 bucks, and I'm damn sure these things are a lot more than 20 bucks. So the Optima is a lower cost solution. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bind them up and we'll do some range tests. We'll see how the Delta 8 compares to the branded product for range. Now the Delta 8 comes with a manual, a printed manual. It's a single A4 page folded in half, but it's chock full of information, and reading that should make it easy to bind up. Now there's two ways to bind these things. There's an auto bind facility where you just basically go through the bind process and it will find the protocol that's working. Or if you want to save time, you can put a jumper on some of the pins here. Here we go, these linking mode pins here. So you can force it to bind up to a particular protocol, which is quicker, but generally I don't bother. Let's bind them up and take them out and see how far they go. Okay, here's our test setup. I got a piece of core flute, coroplast, depending on which country you live in. Got myself a battery, got myself two receivers, got the Optima 7, the Hitec Optima 7 receiver, and the FrSky Delta 8. Now they've both been bound to this Flash 7 transmitter, and yes, you can bind two receivers to one transmitter simultaneously. Isn't that wonderful? Although not a good idea if you're running telemetry, but we're not running telemetry on this, so that's not a problem. Now, I've got some little 9-gram servos connected up to the throttle channel. See that? Isn't that wonderful? And it's set up, I've set the failsafe up so that if I turn off the transmitter, you can see the servos go into the failsafe position. So when we run out of range, the little servo arms will go vertical and we'll know we've run out of range. Now, I'll turn this back on again, and there we go, we're back. Notice that the Hitec receiver came back a bit quicker than the FrSky one. That's worth noting that. I'll turn it off again, see which one drops out quicker. Okay, obviously the FrSky receiver drops out more quickly than the Hitec, and the Hitec comes back more quickly than the FrSky. Now that's interesting, because if you want the absolute best performance, then you're probably going to stick with the branded product. But let's take them outside, let's go for a walk, let's see how far we can get and see which one gives us the best range. Okay, sorry about the audio now. We're outside and I have the Hitec radio here. If I can get a picture of the LCD, hopefully. I'm going to put it into range test mode, which will reduce the range, of course, so let's do that. Low power range, yes. Okay. Supposed to get 100 feet or 30 meters. Let's go. See how far we get with these. Remember, oops, turned up the right way. Remember that the servo arm that goes up first will be the one that loses reception. So far, so good. We've got our 30 meters already. Sorry about the wind. Still going. Wow. A lot more than 30 meters. And we're still going. Oh, there we go. As I suspect, oh, there goes the other one. Maybe it's just, oh, there we go. Turn around this way so you can see how far away the transmitter is. I'll walk backwards so just make sure it's not my body in the way. And still going. Still, there we go. Ooh, look at that. It's interesting. The Optima is actually dropping out first. Go a bit further back, slowly, slowly. Well, we're a good old distance, way more than the 30 meters. This is pretty impressive, actually. If I drop down, we should lose the signal. Just make sure our failsafes are still working. Yep, they're still working. That's interesting. See how slow. Oh, look, we're at the edge of range. The Optima has stopped working first. Now that's very interesting. The FrSky still going. Not what I expected. Go a bit further back. Hope I'm not going to trip over something. No, we're still going. Oh, there we go. Optima's just kicked into failsafe again, and out, in and out, in and out. The FrSky still giving a solid signal. That's impressive. It is impressive. Probably going to fall in the drain shortly. Wow. Oh, there we go. The Hitec, oh sorry, the FrSky just dropped out for a moment. And they're both probably going to get a bit marginal shortly. But the Optima is definitely right out of the game. And the FrSky is still going. Whoa. That's pretty good. I'm getting tired. I don't think I'm going to walk any further. This is a long, long way. I mean, there's our transmitter way down there. Oh, and where is it? Somewhere over here. Can't even see it anymore. Oh, there it is. Oh, it's away. There it is. Full zoom. Full zoom. Oops, shaky hands. Full zoom, and it's way down there. And here we go. Now they're both dropped out. Oh, Hitec's back in. Oh, sorry, the FrSky's back in. FrSky's back in. So we had 35 meters more range. Oh, and we're still going in and out. That's astronomical. That's about 30%, or maybe a 25% greater range from the FrSky receiver than from the genuine Hitec. I did not expect that. Now they're both back in range. So one, yeah, I won't bother counting, won't bother pacing it out, but yeah, I'm impressed with this little Delta 8. Very, very impressed. And just so you don't think that perhaps a transmitter timed out from its range test mode, it doesn't do that on the flash radio, so it's still beeping away and telling us that it's in the range test mode. Brilliant. Okay, here we go again. I've got the Futaba radio this time, and as you can see, it's in the low power range test mode. You hear the beeping. And because I can't run both these receivers at the same time because they will they're on different protocols, one's got telemetry, one doesn't. I've got the FrSky one set up at the moment with the same failsafe settings. So now I'll take a wander and we'll see how far we get with the FrSky receiver. And then we'll switch to the other protocol and test out the Futaba unit. Again, sorry about the wind. Oh, look at that. Oh, that's not very good. My goodness. Oh, mind you, different power down settings mean different things with different receivers, so we'll just go back a bit further. Still okay. Probably my body was blocking the signal before. There we go. Yeah, if I'm facing, my body's in between the transmitter and the receiver, it does tend to block the signal. So now we're doing all right. So if I turn around, it'll go into failsafe probably. No. Oh, okay. There we go. So now we definitely, whoa. Pretty close to failsafe here. This is pretty marginal. There we go. I'm going to say this is the failsafe position for the FrSky receiver. Now, I'll put something on the ground here so I can find out where I was. Actually, I'm just almost directly opposite this white peg here, so we use that as a reference. Okay, now we've got the Futaba transmitter, Futaba receiver operating. Let's take a bit of a run and see how far we can get. It's all nice and solid. No glitching or anything. And despite my body being in the way, we haven't lost the signal at all yet. This is looking better than the FrSky by a long stretch. Oh, there we go. Look at that. There's our pole, and we're pretty much, yeah. Actually, they're identical. They are identical. We're right on the margin there, and there's that white pole. So the ranges are about identical, although I think the FrSky did drop out a couple of times before we got here. The Futaba has been rock solid all the way. So there you go. This little receiver from FrSky stacks up pretty damn well certainly against the Hitec receiver. It gives you more range than the Hitec receiver, which is, great for $20 or $26. I forget what they are, but they're cheap as beans. Against the Futaba, well, the range was pretty much identical, but I noticed, and you probably did too, that this one dropped out a couple of times while I was walking away from the transmitter, and the true Futaba one didn't. It was rock solid all the way until it finally went into failsafe. So I'm going to have to do some flight tests with this little thing with the Futaba transmitter just to make sure it's not glitchy. Don't see why it should be, but hey, until you test it, you just don't know. So there you go. In the meantime, I'd say, seal of approval for this, certainly. I'm not going to bother testing the low voltage dropout. I've already tested the FrSky. It operates well down to 3 volts and less. It's not an issue these days because we're all using decent batteries or UBECs. So, that's the brownouts are a thing of the past, basically. So yeah, I'd say, can't go wrong with these. Now I've got, as I showed you, I've got the Hitec, I've got the, the Flash 7 and the Flash 8. So I'm going to be using the little FrSky receivers with these transmitters because they just work well. I've already used them. I've got, what have I got? I've got my little shrimp boat that's got a Delta 8 in it, and also I think the Skipper, the HobbyKing Skipper, has got a Minima. I don't know if it has got, I have to check, but I have used them quite a bit, and they do work well with the Hitec gear. Although, the thing is, Hitec receivers aren't that expensive, so, just decide what you want to do. With the Futaba, as I say, I'll give it some more testing before I give it the total thumbs up. But Futaba receivers are a lot more expensive. So for a lot of stuff, I think there's plenty of range there. And if it passes the glitch test, then save some bucks perhaps. Who knows? Although remember, doesn't have telemetry. The Delta 8 does not have telemetry, and both of these transmitters are telemetry capable. So you're sacrificing telemetry to save a few bucks. There you go. Okay, that's it. If you've got questions, comments, put them in the usual place. I'll do my best to answer them. If you want to see a full review of this T6K, Futaba T6K, then get the next edition of Airborne Magazine, Australian Airborne Magazine. I'm reviewing this for Airborne Magazine. The review will be in there. And then a month or so later, I'll do a review on this channel as well. But hey, this was sent by Airborne Magazine for review, so I'm not going to pull the wool out under their feet by reviewing it before it goes in the magazine, am I? That wouldn't be fair. Okay. Thank you very much. And now it's time for me to get back to the beach. Look, I'm sweating now. It's hot out there, windy and blustery, but hot. So getting all these fixed wing reviews ready for you to go. So stay tuned, coming up soon. Bye for now.